Let me tell you a story America has been getting wrong for generations. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan introduced the myth of the welfare queen, a racist invention designed to convince working Americans that the real threat wasn't corporate greed or billionaire power. Reagan knew exactly what he was doing. If you can get people angry at the poor, they will never look up at the rich. And now in 2025, Donald Trump is running the exact same play. He goes on Fox News calling SNAP disgraceful, complaining that too many people get help automatically, acting like families using EBT cards are tanking the economy one grocery trip at a time. But here's the truth. Welfare for the poor, they call dependency. Welfare for the rich is called policy. And unless you understand how corporate welfare actually works, you can't see the scam. But that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to learn. So let's do this. Most people hear government spending and think about programs like SNAP, Social Security, Medicaid. But the biggest recipients of your tax dollars by far are corporations. And it happens through three main channels: subsidies, tax breaks, and incentives. So let's break those down. Subsidies are actual cash payments, real money the government gives directly to companies. And the oil industry is the clearest example. Oil companies made record profits last year and still received billions in federal subsidies in 2025. Why? Because the government claims it needs to stabilize energy markets. Let me translate that, because they hope you never ask. Stabilizing the market does not mean lowering prices for you. It means guaranteeing predictable profits for them. It shifts risk off oil companies and onto taxpayers, covering exploration costs, cleanup liabilities, and infrastructure upgrades they could easily afford on their own. It also keeps clean energy companies from competing because fossil fuel giants are being paid to stay dominant. So when they say stabilize the market, they don't mean consumers. They mean shareholders. Then there are tax breaks. A tax break is still public money. It's money the government chooses not to collect, which means the rest of us make up the difference. When Amazon pays $0, in federal income tax, that isn't an accident, it's a policy choice. Money the government chose not to collect. Money that could have funded schools, hospital, housing, disaster relief, but instead padded corporate profits because lobbyists wrote the rules. And finally, there are incentives, enormous public giveaways meant to persuade companies to create jobs. States hand out hundreds of millions in land, infrastructure, and tax credits. But too often, the jobs never materialize or the company packs up and leaves, and they still keep the money. These incentive deals have almost no strings attached. If a corporation takes the cash, delivers maybe a handful of positions, and then disappears, there are no consequences. The public pays, and the company walks away richer. Add it all up, corporate America received over $600 billion in subsidies and tax benefits this year, 6 times what we spent feeding hungry families. But somehow, the outrage is always directed downward. Now let's talk about Donald Trump's personal taxpayer-funded lifestyle. A single Trump weekend at Mar-a-Lago can cost taxpayers up to $3 million with Air Force One, Secret Service, and local police overtime. Secret Service agents stay at Trump-owned properties, funneling public money straight back into Trump's businesses. And then there's the East Wing. Trump tore down an historic part of the White House, illegally, by the way, to build a $300 million ballroom for billionaires and foreign dignitaries. He claims donors are paying for it, but experts say taxpayers will carry the long-term costs, the utilities, the maintenance, the staffing, and the security. This is a man who calls food assistance waste while turning the people's house into a palace for the wealthy. And he'll never tell you the difference between real dependency and the billionaire welfare he lives on, because I honestly don't think he even knows the difference. When you've lived off government favors, bailouts, tax breaks, and taxpayer-funded perks your entire life, other people's struggle just looks like a personal failing. This is the oldest story in American politics. It's the Gilded Age repackaged. Punish poverty, reward wealth. Dress privilege up as merit, and dress need up as shame. Corporate subsidies are called investments. Tax breaks for billionaires are called growth. But a grocery benefit for a struggling family? That's called dependency. No. Dependency is corporations making billions and still demanding public money. Dependency is billionaires writing themselves loopholes and expecting everyone else to pick up the tab. Dependency is the president and his inner circle using taxpayer-funded travel and luxury perks while lecturing working people about fiscal responsibility. So if America wants to have a conversation about who's living off the government, let's have it. But we're starting where the money actually goes, not where the myth points. Because the mom who's buying cereal with an EBT card isn't bankrupting this country. The billionaire classes. The family using SNAP to feed their kids isn't draining the treasury. The corporations paying zero in taxes are. And Donald Trump, the man eating beef fillet and truffled potatoes at a Gatsby-themed Mar-a-Lago party while calling hungry Americans disgraceful, he might be the biggest welfare recipient of all.